Blitz Wolfer asked a question at the Democratic debate that was probably literally written by a big pharma lobbyist. I wish I was kidding, but let's watch, and then I'll break it down for you and explain exactly how insane this question is.
Let's talk a little bit more about prescription drugs right now. Prescription drug prices in 2018, Americans spent $335 billion on prescription drugs alone. That's about $60 billion more than they paid a decade ago. Senator Warren, you've called for the creation of a government-run drug manufacturer that would step in if there is a drug shortage or a price spike. Why does it make sense for the government to manufacture drugs, especially when public trust in government is near historic lows?
So the big pharma companies are price gouging you, are ripping you off, are getting wildly wealthy at your expense and at the expense of average people. And the question is framed, why should we trust the government to do anything when people don't trust the government? Again, that was probably literally written by a healthcare lobbyist, a big pharma lobbyist, and they gave it to Wolf and he just read it off. Guys, that was really bad. That was so bad. So I have specific information on this that's super important. There were 210 drugs that were approved by the FDA from the years 2010 to 2016. Of those drugs, all of them came out of research that was funded by the government. Of the $100 billion the NIH, National Institute of Health, spent during that time frame, more than half of it, $64 billion, ended up helping the development of 84 drugs. So in other words, in layman's terms, our tax money funds the research and development that creates these drugs, that creates the medicine. And then a for-profit health insurance company comes in there, buys up the rights to that medicine that we just created with our tax money, and then sells it back to us at a massive profit margin. And then Wolf Blitzer's question is, why should anybody trust the government when trust in government is at an all-time low? Why should anybody trust the for-profit health insurance companies when everybody knows they're price gouging us and ripping us off, and I'm sure that they're even more disliked than the government is? And by the way, what are you even talking about? Trusting the government's at an all-time low? Yeah, like trusting Congress is at an all-time low. Congress is not going to be making the drugs. You're not going to have Nancy Pelosi sitting there with a mask on, splicing stuff up. That's not the way it works. I mean, again, that is just a flat-out, written by big pharma lobbyist question. That's what that is. So, listen, our tax money funds the research and development of these drugs. So, yeah, there should be a government option where you get the drugs at no profit margin. There's an argument that all of it should be free. When you go to, in the UK, apparently, anytime you go into a pharmacy, it costs like $10 or $20 for any drug that you need. So there's just a little bit of a copay, but it's mostly funded by the taxpayers as part of the NHS. So, the real question is, in this country, should we go about, creating a system where there's a zero profit margin government option for drugs? Or should that be totally funded as part of a Medicare for All system where anytime you need medicine, you go to the pharmacy and get it, and it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket? That's the real debate. But the way Wolf Blitzer is spinning it, he's trying to say, well, obviously we can't trust government. Government's terrible, which means what? The default is, well, the for-profit health insurance companies got this under control. But they're the whole reason that we have this price gouging crisis in the first place. So what a terrible question that was. And it really shows you Wolf Blitzer he's a human robot, but all he has are his corporate talking points, and that's why he's in the position he's in. I don't know if you guys remember this, but this story always stuck with me because it's particularly egregious. Rand Paul was doing an interview with Wolf Blitzer one time, and Rand Paul was saying we shouldn't arm Saudi Arabia because of all the human rights violations and the genocide in Yemen, and they're killing innocent people and all that stuff. And I kid you not, when Wolf Blitzer's response was, what about the jobs? What about the profits of the defense companies? that really says everything there is to say about Wolf Blitzer. He's in the position he's in because he's not that bright. And he's going to go with whatever narrative the establishment and the powers that be want him to go with. And this is such a clear example of it right here.